Okay, I see folks filing in. We'll go ahead and get started. A couple of housekeeping things to get started. Welcome, everybody. My name is Rob Bellina. I'm head of sales here at TeamSense. You're here part of the TeamSense webinar series, and today is another edition of our customer spotlight. We will have some short Q&A time at the end. So as you have questions, as we're talking with our customer spotlight guest today, feel free to put those into the chat. We'll be keeping track of those for the Q&A time at the end of the session. If you'd like to be featured on a customer spotlight, send an email to hello, HELLO, @teamsense.com. And we'd love to have you as a customer spotlight on a future webinar. Today, we're very excited to have as our guest LuAnn Shafer from the Pella Corporation. LuAnn has been with Pella for about a year and a half. She came to Pella from automotive manufacturing and higher education. She was drawn to Pella by her passion for servant leadership, which is a core value at Pella. And Pella embraces a culture of caring deeply, learning continuously, and achieving results that go beyond. LuAnn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So to get us started, tell us a little bit more about Pella. What does Pella do? How large of an organization is it, and what makes it special?
Okay, Pella is a window manufacturer. So we manufacture windows and doors for homes, apartments, corporations, whatever the case may be. And Pella's had a lot of growth over the last few years. We've gone from just a few manufacturing sites to we have 19 now and over 10,000 employees. So I manage human resources for the Troy operations in Troy, Ohio. So we're one of the newer manufacturing sites. We ran our first window in December of 2020. So right in the middle of COVID, they had already scheduled and launched the site here in Troy. So it's exciting to be here to be part of the new startup of one of their manufacturing facilities. But large corporation, lots of great people to work with. But yeah, so my job is to kind of manage the people here and to bring that Pella culture, that embracing the servant leadership, the people first here at Pella, here in Troy.
What an exciting place to be with all of that growth.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about what your role looks like day to day, managing the folks at Troy and bringing that culture.
Okay. I have two that work for me. So I have a staff of two here at Troy. We have between 300 and 400 employees. It fluctuates a little bit depending on the season. So as you might know, we're heading in November, December. So it's more of a slow season for us right now. Day to day, a lot of customer care. I meet with and have spent a lot of time building relationships with the employees here at Pella. But my role specifically is more strategic in looking at ensuring that we've got the headcount we need, working with corporate on employee budgets, on training and development, on any number of HR related things. So I'm very much a generalist. I handle all the different aspects of human resources. I just do it on the micro level here at Troy versus at the corporate level. So
that's a big job.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah. I have a great crew behind me that really without them, I don't know what I do. They're both very good at what they do. So
and that's a good segue into perhaps into TeamSense. Tell me about how long you've been working with TeamSense and where does that fit in?
Well, when I arrived at Pella, they had contracted with TeamSense for the all text service. And as you can imagine, they did that during COVID so that we were able to quickly gauge what was going on for any given day and who was coming in and who was not able to. But then after I came on board, my staff and I talked. We then went with the call off line. So we use TeamSense now every day for our call off line, and it's working out really, really well.
That's great to hear.
Yeah,
it's rare that I get to speak to some of our earliest customers that remember some of the earliest offerings that we had.
Yeah.
And as far as your experience with TeamSense, is there anything in particular that distinguishes TeamSense as a vendor or your experience with us as a company supporting you?
Well, actually, my experience with you guys has been great. Sarah's been amazing. So she's worked hand in hand with us to launch the call offline for us. Prior to implementing the call offline with TeamSense, each of our employees would call their individual managers if they were not going to make it in for the day and request whatever time they needed. As you can imagine, having to gather all that information from all the different managers didn't give us the quick turnaround we needed on absentee rates and being able to run the lines and so forth. So when I mentioned this to Sarah, she's like, wow, I have a solution. And we started talking. We got to demo that and she built that out for us. And it's great. It's great. Because so any given day, I can go in and look and see what our absentee percentage is for that particular day or for the weeks and the months prior to that. Days, weeks, months, whichever the case may be. So it really, from a strategic standpoint, I look at absenteeism rates. We look at, it breaks it down even to who has the highest number of call-ins and what are they calling in for. A lot of good data there.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something about the ability to seeing the absenteeism rates and having that help you as you're running the lines. Is that the biggest impact to absenteeism is running the lines? Tell me about where you see the benefit from using TeamSense versus the supervisors.
Okay, it absolutely is, because it gives, say for instance, our production manager, our plant manager, they have line of sight to that as well. They can get in and look at those rates as soon as they get here in the morning. And you're absolutely right. It impacts our ability to produce products. So we try to run our lines very lean and have just the number of people we need day in and day out to get the product out the door. And if we've got someone absent or an unplanned absence, so to speak, we need to be able to fill those gaps and fill them quickly. I believe, and I think our production managers do too, that first hour is kind of our golden hour. You've got to hit your production rates that first hour. Otherwise, you're behind the rest of the day. I mean, it's difficult to catch up. So that's what it enables us to do, to get line of sight early on. Where do we need to fill the gaps and get us running right off the bat?
Makes sense. I've heard you mention the supervisors, the production managers. What's it like for the hourly workforce, the folks that are actually utilizing TeamSense to call in?
Actually, they love it because regardless, we call it a call in, but they literally text in their information. So they send a quick text, get a link, and are able to go in and let us know they're not going to be here, the reason they're not going to be here, whether or not they want to request any time for the day. So if they have personal time or vacation time that they would like to request, they could do that through TeamSense. And then we just get a quick synopsis of every individual that calls in. Fortunately, I don't have an overabundance of those. They're not too bad. I would say 10 is generally the highest in any given day. We've had some higher, but generally not even that high. So 5, 6. So it's been very beneficial. The employees like it. And the all text thing is great too. It allows us to communicate quickly with our team members. So we do appreciate that. Or I can do that by line. It doesn't have to be the entire group. If I've got a line scheduled maybe for Saturday that we've been able to run real well on a Friday and don't need them to come in, I can send that message out really quick and hit everybody and make sure I don't have anyone reporting that doesn't need to be here.
Interesting. Yeah, I imagine that not a great experience for them, and probably there's a cost to the business as well.
Absolutely.
Have you done any sort of measuring or quantification of the impact of TeamSense for the call off or the all text since you've been using it?
Actually, we're just getting into that. Like I said, the call off, it's been about 7 months. So we've been using that. So Sarah and I are just connecting. But again, for me, and I haven't quantified it, just the ability to be able to provide those data analytics for absenteeism. It's one thing that corporate will look at. And I'm able to, at any given point in time, just pop in there, put a date range in and forward our absentee rates for whatever period of time they're looking at. So for me, it's invaluable just because I've got data at my fingertips and can provide that when needed. Makes me look good. I can provide it pretty quick, right?
It's a good tool for the job. Right?
It is a great tool. Yeah.
Helps you do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Do you have a particular anecdote or story about a time when you were grateful for something that TeamSense enabled for you?
And well, let me see. That's probably going to be more on the all text. We had a situation not too long ago. I think there was an electrical outage, and we had to call off or delay the start of our third shift. And as you can imagine, with 300 employees doing that quickly, the all tech system was extremely beneficial. We were able to get that message out, get it out pretty quickly, and let them know we were going to delay 2 hours just due to the situation.
How would you have handled that situation if you didn't have that capability?
Good question. And I've been around a while. So back in the day, it's calling the TV station and seeing if they'll post something there, or a radio station or something along those lines, to see if you could get that message out there. So this is really beneficial. Some of the other places I've worked at, they've had like a phone tree. But again, that's not, if you want something done quickly, which we needed to do within an hour or two to get that out, those options are just not real viable. They're not real successful. So this really makes it nice. And everybody has a cell phone nowadays. I mean, it's the one device that I can anyway count on. All of our team members have a cell phone.
I've spoken to customers who have tried to utilize phone trees. As you mentioned, there's a delay aspect. There's also the aspect of they go into their HR system and it's like, well, this was their phone number when they joined, but I don't know. With TeamSense, one of the things that we talk about is, because it's being used for the call off, it's refreshed. Have you had any experience with a benefit of the hourly workforce keeping their numbers up to date?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Trying to get people to keep and they don't think about it. I get it. I mean, you don't think about that. That's the last thing you think about. I need to let HR know that I've changed my number. So that's a great benefit, because I've run into that more than I could count throughout my career, where we just don't have current contact information. So I love that piece of it. That's a great feature.
Great to hear. If there's someone listening now or on a recording that is thinking about, gosh, there's 9 different things that we can or probably should do. Why should I prioritize dealing with the call in or the call off process? What advice would you have for them?
And it doesn't seem like a big deal. And I know sometimes others don't even can think about it. But at the end of the day, it saves time. It's affordable. It gets us to the point where we're running production at startup, as opposed to scrambling, seeing who we have missing and who we need to get on site. So I think time and money, it just kind of saves all the way around. It's been a great benefit for us. Something that I noticed, early on, that it wasn't, it just wasn't efficient what we were doing. It wasn't efficient, and this gets us there. And like I said, in the scheme of things, it's very affordable. So I do appreciate, you and your team. It's been a great partnership so far.
Oh, well, likewise, we'll take it.
Okay.
One thing we like to do on the customer spotlight is also give you a chance to share more about what you're doing outside of TeamSense and the call off and everything. So obviously, you've shared that you have some strategic view, and then you also work very tactically with the group at Troy. What are some of the things that you're doing to be thoughtful about your team members at Pella?
Oh, wow. We a lot of engagement, surveys, getting different groups of team members, whether it's through a roundtable or monthly communication meetings. I mean, that engagement is just key. Pella's growing by leaps and bounds. As I indicated, they've grown quite a bit. Actually, Pella will be 100 years old in 2025. And only 1% of businesses, as I've been told, make it to 100 years. So a lot of celebrating, but with some of the acquisitions and the growth that we've had here recently, there's been a lot of work from a corporate level and here at the individual plants on updating policies, just driving consistency across the Pella family of brands. So a lot of change that way. We've got a lot going on right now. Engagement surveys, your view count surveys coming out. So it's a very busy time of year. But again, engagement has been quite a focus since I've been here. As you can imagine, starting a new plant, you're taking a few hundred people and bringing them all together. So the culture's not there. We have to build that culture. So that's kind of been my front and foremost, my challenge, and my pleasure. I mean, that's one of the pieces I love, is just getting out, getting to know the team, building those relationships. And fortunately, I have a group that's, it's a good size, but it's yet small enough that I can get out and get to know everyone and really do that. So yeah, it's been busy.
Sounds like a very busy time with a lot to do.
Yes.
For folks that may be listening now or to a recording that are considering Pella for employment, what would you say to them?
Oh yeah, it's a great place to work. And we've got manufacturing sites from Portland to Florida to Pennsylvania. We've got manufacturing sites all across the US. So if you're interested in working with Pella, get on Pella.com, go to careers, and you'll find the jobs across the enterprise there. Our corporate office is in Pella, Iowa, which is a really cool little town in Iowa. That's where all of our corporate functions are housed. So that's where that would be. But manufacturing sites, again, across the US, what we call PDSNs, those are kind of our sales sites. And Pella does a lot. They have a program now where if you order windows, and I don't know the ins and out of it, I'm not on that side of the aisle, so to speak, but you can do it where they get them installed too. So Pella will actually come out and you can order, have them installed, and do everything right online. So yeah, check out the website, go to careers, and there's lots of different options out there.
Awesome. I want to transition into some Q&A, so we've got time for that. But before we do, any other things you want to mention? Any other questions that I should have asked?
Oh gosh, not that I can think of. No, I'm excited about what you guys are doing, about our ability to partner with you. I don't know that there's anything I can add to that, but it's like I said, it's been a very efficient option for us in terms of the call in and managing our attendance day to day.
Good to hear. All right, Shannon, if you would, let's take some questions.
All right, sounds great. The Q&A is open, so you guys can use that to drop your questions, and we will be happy to ask them. You can also send me a private message if you would prefer. All right, first question. You spoke about culture. Are there generational considerations when it comes to employee engagement? And if so, are there certain things that you have found are working better than others when working with different generations?
Yeah, of course. Oh, gosh, right now is probably as tough as it's been in terms of whether we've got 5 or 6 different generations in the workforce now. It's not been a huge issue here in Troy. Everybody's different, and I try to look to that. When we communicate, I do it in multiple different ways. I don't necessarily target different generations, but I try to do it in a lot of different ways, because I even have some of the younger ones that, for technology, say for instance, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at this, but I have younger ones that are not as tech savvy as maybe some others. And so it really doesn't matter. I guess my thing is, when I communicate, I do it in multiple ways, just so that you hit the gamut, that everybody takes in information differently, regardless of our generation. So that's the way I approach it.
Amazing. Great advice, LuAnn. What about how much training was required, do you think, for Pella employees to really feel like they could use TeamSense?
Oh, guys, that was the amazing part. It's quick. I mean, there's not a lot of training involved. We did send out the information. We ran a couple of tests. We tested it a few times with a few of our different team members, but it's really quick and easy. You hit the link, they send you, you send the text, they send you a link, and you just answer the questions. So very little training, to be honest with you.
Was Pella using something else for call off before TeamSense? And how did you let your team members know? You said you sent out some information. How did you disseminate the information that TeamSense was starting with you guys?
Okay. Prior to this, each of the team members would call their direct manager and just let them know that they weren't going to be here for the day. So each of the managers got those calls. When we rolled out TeamSense, I do it in a lot of different ways. We have what we call sums that are read each morning in their startup meetings, or each evening in the startup meetings. And it's a startup meeting memo is what it is. So we put out a sum letting them know we were making the move. I have bulletin boards back in the cafeteria. I posted information there. We have TV screens in our different cafeterias that we post announcements. It was posted there. It was shared in our communication meetings. So we have an all plant meeting quarterly, and then team lead roundtables and other communication meetings. We kind of shared it everywhere, and we had handouts that they could pick up at the kiosk and our cafeterias. So again, whenever I communicate, it's in a lot of different fashion. It's a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. Great example of the answer to that question earlier, right? Just getting the information out in
Getting it
every
out there.
form.
Yeah.
What about, have you used the survey feature with TeamSense? And I know you mentioned that you were doing some surveys with your team. Do employees enjoy that?
Yes and no. Surveys are always a tricky thing, because if you're going to do them, you got to respond, right? and that's the one complaint. The surveys we've done recently, the Your View Count surveys, those were driven by corporate, and they were corporate wide. We haven't done anything here locally, and that's been intentional just because of the corporate wide surveys. I didn't want to inundate people, I guess. But I do have a few that I want to get out there for our team. I'm just going to time it after the first of the year, get through what corporate's doing, and then I'll hit mine.
That's smart. That's smart, LuAnn. And then what about and this is going to be a ballpark figure, because you already said that that employees were calling in to their direct managers, but how many hours do you think TeamSense has saved your HR team on an average week?
On an average week, I would say an hour or two a day. So if we go 2 a day, 10, 12 hours a week that we're saving. Because you have to gather that information from the managers, and then the bigger cost savings is we're running those lines. Those lines are getting up and they're running with a full team quicker than what they would be if they were still calling the managers directly. We're just reacting much quicker.
Shannon, if you don't mind, I've got a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
With that, hour or two extra a day, what are you and your peers doing with that time now?
Engagement.
Yeah.
And it's been, and I really have focused a lot on that, as you might guess, my servant leadership background, the fact that it's a new plant, we're building a culture here. So engagement's a big part of it, one of the things that we've been able to do, I have an HR rep that reports to me, and again, I've only got 300-400 people, so they're just three staff members in HR, including myself. But she's been able to, not been able to, graciously offered, she's working a split shift for me right now. So she's spending time on third shift a couple nights a week to really just support our third shift team, which is difficult sometimes. So that's enabled us, it saved us some time there, enabled her to delay her startup time in the morning in order for her to come back in the evening and kind of support that team. So that's been the biggest benefit.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Shannon, I see your note, closing questions. Any other final questions before we wrap?
We do not have anything that has come through, but LuAnn, we will certainly let you know if we get other questions and forward them your way.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so grateful for the time and for the insights. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for the great questions and the participation. Again, if there's interest in being part of a future customer spotlight, you can reach out to us at hello@teamsense.com. And for now, we'll sign off. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.